inmates in the past 6 months. The acting Controller General of the service, Sylvester Nwakuche, described the situation in the correctional facilities as alarming, stressing the need for urgent action to expedite justice delivery and decongest prisons. He noted that there are inmates who have spent years in the facilities without trial, and this situation worsens because governors refuse to sign execution orders or convert death sentences to life terms, which is supposed to ease congestion. They are now engaging top security officials, including Inspector General of Police, the DSS Director General, among others, to push for a faster justice system. Now, joining us in the studio is the Legal and Research Lead, Center for Legal Support and Inmates Rehabilitation, Laura Nnamdi. Good to see you, Laura. Thank you so much for joining us on this very crucial...
Thank you so much for having me.
Right.
Good morning.
Right. So we have a lot of people who are in prison and they have been imprisoned before their trial. And when the trial comes, I do not know how that actually translates, but some of them are on death row, which the governors are finding it very tough to sign into law. What do you consider the challenges?
Okay, so personally, I would say international pressure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of activism and advocacy against the death penalty.
That's right.
Activists in the international community in Africa as a continent, in Nigeria, are clamoring for the abolishment of the death penalty because it doesn't serve any purpose. So I believe this is one of the reasons why governors are hesitating or are hesitant to sign death execution warrants, because according to law, after the judge pronounces the death sentence, a governor still has to sign the warrant before execution can take place. And so this hesitation is like what we're talking about here, I believe, can be linked to also political pressure from countries that are, we'll classify as the global north, countries in like the West and all, who have embraced non-death penalty and are putting pressure on countries like ours to, you know, go abolish the death penalty.
Well, our constitutional lawyer, Femi Falana, says, and I quote, keeping an inmate in death row for a long time is tantamount to torture. You agree with that?
Well, yes, because according to, I believe, Section 12(2)(c) of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act, if it provides, and I'm paraphrasing, if someone has been on death row for 10 years and has exhausted every means of appeal, the chief judge has the discretion to commute that death sentence to life imprisonment, right? So, and the governor also has the discretion under Section 212 of the Constitution to commute that to a lesser sentence, a life imprisonment, or to grant pardon. So yes, keeping someone there for that long, not knowing what their fate will be, no closure as to what's going to happen. I believe that I agree with the Leonard Silk that stands, because you are not at peace. Okay, you've been convicted. What's next? Am I going to be pardoned? Am I going to, you know, be executed? And yes, that mindset is. I
can just imagine.
It's not good for anybody.
You know,
basically.
Right, but then maintaining an overpopulated prison system strains state resources, because there's a whole lot that will definitely go into catering to these people who are in the prison, some of them on death row. But do you feel that that prolonged incarceration is putting the strain on our economic values, especially those on death row, and could enforcing execution orders reduce this, this cost?
Okay, like you rightly referred to, the number of incarcerated persons on death row as of now is 3,688, I believe. As at September last year, it was 3,005. In 2017, it was 2,003. In 2021, it was 3,000, right? And then the population of people in incarceration across Nigerian prisons is about 80,000, over 80,000. 70% of that figure are still awaiting trial. So how do you say 3,000 that are on death row will decongest? I think we need to look into the number that is significant, which is over 70%. Let's say we execute everybody who is on death row at 3,006. That's it's not going to solve the problem of, decongesting the prison. As to the economic constraints, yes, keeping people in prison, feeding them and all of that could, impact, strain our economic, whatever, yes. So, but that is why the world is moving into restorative justice. I'd have you know that I think in 2001, strong data, although it's kind of far, but the UK Restorative Justice Centre conducted a research, and they found that they saved £9 for every £1 spent on restorative justice. And there has been an increase of survivors and offenders and family members of victims and survivors alike who are opening up to restorative justice. They feel like, yes, this is 85% of that figure, as at that time, opted to meet their offenders or alleged offenders face to face, right? So there are other means to decongest the prison without executing anybody. I'll tell you a quick story. I have a colleague who was on death row for 14 years, and he was released on appeal. Now, imagine so many people who, if they go on appeal, the appellate court would say, oh no, you're not supposed to be in prison, or you were even arrested wrongfully or convicted wrongfully, and then you execute them before they have the chance to go on appeal. What happens? That's another innocent man sent to the gallows, right? So execution orders are not going to solve the prison and decongestion. We have other ways, alternative measures to depopulate. We need to depopulate the 70% population, which are people awaiting trial.
So is it just to open the gates of the prisons and let some people go and say, some people stay back?
Speedy trials.
Okay.
Exactly.
Speedy trials. We need to sensitize law enforcement that they shouldn't be weaponized by people in power. Right? You see a situation where I had a situation recently. I went to repair my laptop. The laptop repairer was telling me how 2 of his colleagues were arrested. They're in the holding cell. I said, what happened? He said, the boss came. A former laptop repairer was there causing trouble. And the boss told them, hold that guy, don't let him run away. And the guy took up a sharp object and said, if anybody comes near me, I'll stab you. And so nobody could hold him. The boss became angry that I gave you an order, and then he brought the police. And, fortunately.
Why let your money sit idle somewhere else? With Congo Pay, earn a guaranteed 15% annual
measure of authority or power, take advantage of the police and just throw people in anyhow. So he listened to me. He listened to the situation. I was like, this is not what you bring people there for. And it's a rarity that a police officer will do that. But I'm just grateful to God that he was there at that moment and he listened. So you cannot just throw people in for just keep them there for a very long time. The complainant will even forget that you're there. The prosecutor will forget that you're there. Everybody forgets that you're there, and then you're spending 12, 10, 5 years in productive years.
Now, just thinking about that is giving me a headache. I mean, you didn't do anything wrong, and you are thrown into that kind of situation. It's really depressing. I am interested in that 70% you talked about, people awaiting trial.
Yes, please.
Yes, we know that the justice system is quite slow, especially when it comes to criminal cases and things like that. What is your center, the Legal Research and Center for Legal Support and Inmate Rehabilitation? Why I want to ask you this question is inmate rehabilitation.
Okay.
How far has your center gone with that? How successful have you been?
Okay, so we look at, beyond providing legal representation, our organization is mostly concerned with, eventually if you provide legal representation and these people get to come out, are they coming out rehabilitated, or are they going to come out and go back to crime? Because Nigeria has a high rate of recidivism, meaning people come out and then go back. They go back 1, 2, 3, 4, multiple times they are back. So what are the structures that we can put in place to ensure that people are coming out rehabilitated and are being successfully reintegrated into society? So we bridge that gap between society and incarcerated persons who, when they come out, become formerly incarcerated persons, right? And we utilize education. We do in-prison education and out-of-prison education. We utilize vocational skills training because we realize that interacting with our community, most of the times, the two serious issues that they face coming out of correctional facilities is financial stability and housing. So to reintegrate them back into society, I believe our organization has a safe house for formerly incarcerated women, specifically for formerly incarcerated women, and I'm pleased to announce that it is the first in Nigeria specifically for formerly incarcerated women. So when they come out and do not have where to go with their children, they come to us. They stay in our home it's like a safe transitional housing. So we rehabilitate you. What skill do you want to learn? Do you want to go back to school? And things like that. We put these structures in place, but obviously, we can't do it alone, and it's a collective effort. It's supposed to be collective. It's supposed to be holistic, right? Government is doing their parts, and the society as well are also doing their parts. And we also we teach. We've been running our educational program across adult facilities in Lagos since 2020. So we have educators, qualified educators on our volunteer team who teach these people through virtual learning, virtual classes, Zoom, and we prepare them for qualifying examinations, basically to bridge the gap of inequality between those in prison and their counterparts outside prison. So they can sit for GC, and they do sit for GC, they do sit for JAMB, and they do excellently well. So these are some of the things that we do to rehabilitate them inside and also outside. So when they're coming, they're not coming out as a better person. Yes, they're not coming out with heavily weighed down by the impaction of the justice system.
Okay. Right. So very quickly, I think we have just less than a minute if you can. So there has been this debate over privatizing some of our prisons so that we have private partnership where we have some private prisons, or we should just privatize the entire prisons rather than the government running this. Do you think that that's the way to go? Very quickly. Well,
I think we should look at, if we're going to go into that, I've not really given that a lot of thoughts, but I'd say that if we're going to go into that, we should look at trend analysis. The privatization of other government enterprises and establishments. Is there trend analysis of it being successful?
Exactly.
Is there, even who is coming to privatize? They are looking to make profits. Will they have the interest of these people at heart, or they're just coming there to make money? If at all we are going to thread that part, I think these are some of the things that we're supposed to look into before venturing into that.
That's a convenient place for us to leave it. Legal and Research Lead, Center for Legal Support and Inmate Rehabilitation, Laura Nnamdi. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Been here.
Do stay with us here on TVC Breakfast. Still ahead, we'll now look into the political issues in Rivers State and how it's impacted